right, Knicks fans, let's be honest about it, okay? All right, let's cut the nonsense. This series is over. They're done. They're done. Indiana's a better team. Do you realize Indiana now has beaten the Knicks 6 of the last 7 times they played them in the playoffs? Beat them in Game 7 last year, killed them in Game 7 last year at the Garden. All right? And I don't want to hear about the injuries to Anunoby or that Brunson got hurt last year, whatever. This team is better. They got 10 guys that can score, that can actually shoot. And I'm going to tell you this, too. Let's talk about this, too. Obviously, Game 1 was a disaster. It's one of the worst losses in the history of this franchise. I mean, let's talk. There's no way to sugarcoat it. 14-point lead with 3 minutes to go, and you choked that game away? Because that's what they did. They choked it away. They missed free throws. You know, it's funny. Last night, what were they, 18 or 21 from the foul line? And they still lost. And even Indiana missed free throws, although Turner hit 2 big ones late in the game. That really kind of sealed the Knicks' fate. But, I mean, let's be honest about it. The Pacers are just better. And after they choked away that game, I knew that. I said, that's it. They're dead. The Knicks have never won a playoff series when they lost Game 1 at home. And how about this? And I like Tom Thibodeau. Okay, I like him. But Tom Thibodeau now has taken the Knicks to the playoffs 4 times since he became head coach. 3 of the 4 times the Knicks have lost the playoffs, have lost Game 1 of a playoff series at home. And obviously the other 2 against Atlanta and Miami, they wound up losing, and they're going to lose this one too. And the only thing that I can talk about now with the Knicks is let's hope they don't get swept. Let's hope they at least get back to a Game 5 at the Garden. Not that it's going to matter, because there is no such thing as a home court advantage for the Knicks anymore. Let's be honest. The Knicks haven't had a home court advantage at the Garden since the days of Clyde and Willis. Let's be honest about it. I mean, we don't have time for me to document all the brutal playoff losses at home the Knicks had in the Ewing years. From the Charles Smith Memorial to the 2 losses to Indiana in 95, Game 1 and Game 7, Game 3 in the NBA Finals against Houston in 94, the game after the bench incident, Game 6 against Miami in 97, even the Game 6 in 2000 in the conference finals, they lost that at home to Indiana too. So the idea that they got any kind of home court advantage, and we just documented what it's been with Thibodeau. They're 3-5 at home this year in the playoffs, so there is none. Maybe there's too many celebrities in the crowd, okay? Because God knows that the real fan can't afford a ticket. You got to take a second mortgage out to go to a Knicks playoff game. Or even a Knicks regular season game for that matter. Too many fraud fans in the building, but that's maybe for later on. But this team is dead. And how about some? And what is Thibodeau? Explain this to me. As I'm watching this game, here is a game you have to win. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. This is a must-win game last night in Game 2 for the Knicks. It's a tie game starting, and never for a second, by the way, were the Knicks ever in control of this game. Ever. Pascal Siakam came out like he was Jordan and, had a phenomenal game. What do you have, 39 points? And he was hitting everything early on in the game. But it's a tie game going into the 4th quarter, and Jalen Brunson is on the bench for like 4 or 5 minutes. And you got this campaign who stinks. I mean, are you kidding me? And that's another big issue with this team. They're not deep. Let's be real about it. And I know Mitchell Robinson and McBride have done a nice job off the bench in this series. Mitchell Robinson does a lot of great things, but one thing Mitchell Robinson can't do is score. So when he's out there, the Knicks are essentially 4 against 5 as far as being able to score the basketball. But campaign stinks. Brunson's got to be out there. I know you want to get some rest for the guy, but he's got to be on the floor to start the freaking 4th quarter of a game you have to have. This is not some, regular season game in the middle of February. And the same thing with Karl Anthony Towns. And I understand he was a -20. And I understand this, too, that your 2 best players, all right, are terrible defensive players. I mean, let's be honest about it. So I get it that Towns is like a -20 or whatever it was, and you want Robinson on the floor for defense. But you need Towns to score. You need him to score. And I realize he disappears for times as well, and I question still maybe that trade they made. I don't know. Randall and DiVincenzo, were they really a better team now than they were with those guys? We don't know the answer to that. But the bottom line is Karl Anthony Towns you can't keep him on the bench until basically the 2-minute mark of the fourth quarter after you're down 10 points. He's got to be out there. And I like Thibodeau. I got to tell you, I like him. I do. But he's in trouble here. And if they get swept, I think he's gone. I do. And as I just mentioned, this is the third time they've lost a game one of a playoff series at home. I mean, come on. And how about this, too? And look, Jalen Brunson is a tremendous player. He's moved into all-time Knick category. No doubt. Like I said, he's halfway to the ceiling, right? No doubt about it. But there are times when he just dribbles and dribbles and dribbles and dribbles. Everybody else is standing around, and look, he's great. I mean, he makes shots. I mean, when he gets into the lane with those little floaters and those turnaround jumpers, he's lethal. And look, the shot he took at the last night when they were down 3, what was it, about 14 seconds left, he rushed the shot. I mean, he really did. He had time to take a better shot, but I think he was worried that they were going to foul him because Indiana still had a foul to give. And obviously, it wasn't a great shot the night before either, or Wednesday night when he had a chance to tie the game in regulation. Both he and Towns had looks that weren't even close that would have tied the game in regulation there. Or was not regulation, at the end of the overtime. I'm sorry. Right. The end of the overtime. The end of regulation was watching Halliburton take that shot that went 20 feet in the air and came down through. And I was actually upset that they only called it a 2 because I knew they were going to lose in overtime. Now I had to stay up and watch more. Unbelievable. I can't tell you. I'm so disgusted with what has gone on here. But getting back to Brunson, sometimes, I mean, he's got the ball and he's not looking for anybody else. He's going 1-on-3, whatever he's doing. And like I said, I understand he's terrific. I get it. But how about the play? This play went unnoticed last night, Sue. Okay? So they're down 3. And it was I guess it was the next to last possession they had. He hits Josh Hart for an easy layup to cut it to 1. And then Indiana basically throws the inbounds pass away, but Brunson fouls. I forget, was it Turner that he fouled?
No, he fouled Naismith.
Naismith. What? We would have had the ball back down 1.
That was a brutal one.
Brunson fouls him. What are you doing?
I couldn't believe that. And you know what, Joe? I don't want to give him a break because anytime you foul somebody, especially in that situation, it's unacceptable.
Right.
But, I mean, I'm watching that one, and that ball is going out of bounds.
Right.
Almost a guarantee to go out of bounds. No question about it. If you don't touch the guy.
100%.
I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know. I want to defend him. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But that was the play that I don't want to say cost the game because there was a lot that went into that. Yep. But, that you could have had an opportunity, a legit opportunity to go and actually win and not go back to Indy 0-2.
Yeah.
That's what they got.
That was a killer play in the game. I mean, let's be honest about it. That was one of the killer plays in the game. This was a terror. These 2 games, look, like I said, game 1 was one. Maybe the only worst loss that I can remember than game 1 in this series is the Charles Smith Memorial, because that was also in the Eastern Conference Finals, and this is in the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, there's just no excuse. And now they're down 0-2, and you're delirious. And I've heard some people, they still got a chance to get back in the series. No, they don't. You think they're winning 2 games in Indiana? Think again. I'm praying they don't get swept.
That building's going to be rocking.
Forget about it. I'm praying they don't get swept here. And like I said, even if they come back to the Garden for Game 5, you think they're winning that game? I'm disgusted. And you know what else gets me ticked off? How about what New York City did here when they put these street names? How about this? The Knicks have won nothing. They haven't won a championship since 1973. All they've done is win 2 rounds in the playoffs so far. They still got to win 8 games, and they still got to win 8 games if they're going to win a championship, right? And they got street names for every Knick. Even Campaign has a street. What? Come on. Are you kidding me?
I mean, this is what happens, though. This is what happens this is what happens when you do too much. You become Hollywood all of a sudden out of nowhere. Look at Rocky 3, right? Rocky becomes all this Hollywood guy, and what happens? He loses. We should have been waiting on this. We can celebrate as fans. We can love this. But, I mean, the team, I feel like this team got their heads overinflated.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, man. And look, it was great beating Boston. I love sticking it to them. But let's be real. I mean, I don't care what their record was during the season. And I understand they were the defending champions, but the Celtics were overrated. And once Jason Tatum went down, they were able to win Game 5. I get that in Boston. But once Tatum was down, they were done. They weren't. And the Knicks, destroyed them like they should have in Game 6.
And you know what else, bro? And I've heard this a lot because I just have been listening to a lot of different NBA things over the past, couple days or week or so. And just to get different perspectives on the losses. And I mean, I just keep hearing the same thing about the Pacers. They are a team of destiny. They're a team of destiny. Yeah. And you look at what they're doing, and they really are. And you know what? Maybe that's what we're just running into. We're running into a buzzsaw right now of a group of guys who don't want to win. They don't go out there and feel like, hey, let's go and let's get a championship and it'll be fun. They're going, we need to win. We need to make the finals. We need to hoist that Larry O'Brien trophy this year. And that's what the difference is. The Knicks look like a bunch of guys that are just happy to be there. And yeah, it'd be nice to win. It'd be kind of cool. But you know what? Whatever. At the end of the day, we'll all be happy and there's another year. The Pacers look like this is the last year their franchise is ever going to be in existence. And they want to make sure they win that championship right now. There is a determination. There is a want that the Knicks just don't match right now. And that's what at the end of the day, that's what it's ultimately going to come down to. And when the Pacers are going into the finals however long, a week or whatever, then we're going to be saying that about them when they go and take on OKC or Minnesota.
The coach had a bad night. He's had a bad series. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. And I love Thibodeau. He's changed. I hate to use the word culture. I can't stand it. But he's changed the culture here. The Knicks were in the abyss for all those years. Him and Leon Rose have turned it around. The Knicks are relevant again. They're a legitimate playoff team every year now. Win 50 games the last couple of years, the whole deal. No doubt about it. But Thibodeau has not been good. Rick Carlisle has completely outcoached them. But Indiana just has too many guys. The Knicks I wish there was a way for the Knicks to get DiVincenzo back. I don't know how they could do that. I really don't. But he adds a toughness. He's a guy off the bench that can actually score. He can hit a three. McBride's a nice player, and he's really played well. He played well in the Celtics series. He played well last night again. Even defensively, he's had a couple big blocks. You love what Mitchell Robinson brings to the table as an offensive rebounder, as a defensive presence out there and all of that. But he just can't score. Can't make a free throw. He was 2 for 4 last night. He's a liability offensively. And you just can't play 5-on-4 against a team like the Pacers, where basically, like you said, bro, every guy on that team could come off the bench and score 20 points.
And they're showing it to us.
Right.
They're all showing it to us, too.
Right. Every freaking one of them. So, I don't know what else to say. I'm disgusted. I really am as a Knicks fan. I thought we really had something here after they whacked Boston. I will say this. I would have much, and obviously it's coming to fruition, I would have much rather played the Cavaliers than playing the Pacers. And the Pacers have our number, and the Pacers have had our number for a lot of years. The Knicks have played them 8 times in the playoffs. Indiana's won 5. And Indiana's won the last, 2. I want to make sure I get them all right. Let's say they won in 2000. They won in 2013. They won last year, and they're going to win again this year. So that's going to be 4 straight times that the Knicks have played the Pacers in the playoffs and lost to them. Okay? So, I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I've watched them for the last, and I'm just going to say I'm not even going to go back to the championship years. That was a totally different team than they've been. I'm just looking at the last 40 years, basically starting with the Ewing era. Bro, they've underachieved. No team that I root for. Let's be honest about this. And we're talking about a lot of bad teams. The Jets, the Mets over the years. We'll get to the Mets later and the brilliance of Juan Soto. We'll get to that at some point. But the Rangers, the Jets, the Mets. No team that I root for has had more brutal playoff losses than the New York Knickerbockers in the last 40 years.
Seriously, it's unbelievable.
Right? No, one brutal playoff loss, and most of them at home.
I mean, even think about when they went out to Miami, right? They go out to Miami, and how did they lose that game? Because they couldn't get off a real shot at the end. They could have won. They could have won that game. They could have at least had a shot. They can't even get off a shot.
Go back to 2 years ago. You go back to 2 years ago.
You get blown out by the Hawks and Pacers at home.
Yeah.
I mean, this is those aren't even awful. Right. Those are just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're not even talking Charles Smith.
Right. No, look, well, losing to the Michael Jordan Bulls, one of the great teams of all time that won 6 championships. We're not talking about that, bro.
Yeah, we're talking about literally casual. We get casual, horrific losses in the playoffs.
Yep.
Last night was a perfect example of that.
Yep. And game 1 was just an epic disaster. It was
and the saddest part, NBA, the whole NBA world, that is going to be the picture of us for an entire generation now, because that is being viewed as one of the greatest games ever played, and certainly probably the best game of this century.
And they got until they win a championship. Come on, this team, it's unbelievable. It really is. Right now, I don't know what else to say, Knicks fans. And I'm going to say this again, and if you think they're coming back to win this series, you are delusional. All right? Like I said, all I can hang my hat on now is that they can find a way to at least not get swept here, because I'm concerned that's going to happen. And they got to make some changes in the offseason, and I think Thibodeau's in trouble. I got to say that. I don't know who they bring in, but I think he's in trouble. And they got to get more. They have to get deeper. This team is not deep enough to deal with a team like Indiana that just sends 10, 11 guys in waves out there when every guy can beat you. And it is too, bro. The Knicks defense is terrible. How many open, easy shots did Indiana get yesterday in the fourth quarter? How many? Whether it was a layup around the basket, three-point shots.
Comes back to Tibbs. When teams start to see that you're switching everything aggressively, then all they got to do is start setting picks and running around, and you're not going to keep up with them. Somebody is going to get lost, and that's what Indiana continues to do to them.
No question about it. It's very sad. It's been a great run, but look, we'll be watching tomorrow. We'll be rooting for our team. We hope somehow they can come back and make a series out of this. I don't see it happening. I really don't. And I think they got to really look to make some changes in the off season. And I said this when it happened. I was not thrilled about this Karl Anthony Towns trade. We don't know the answer to this. We'll never know the answer, but they might have been a better team with Julius Randle and DiVincenzo than they are with this guy. I got to throw it out there. Got to say it. It's certainly up for debate.